Hey guys, welcome to the Midnight Safe Room, and today's topic is the Blair Witch. Um, the movie was released January 25, 1999, and I would say that this movie changed the history of horror films for the rest of our lives because this movie is actually the first of its kind. It's actually a found footage type of video. Um, like I said, it's one of a kind, and today we're gonna touch on that topic. What do you think about this movie and how did it change your life?
I mean, I remember the first time you showed me this movie. I still remember we were at Anna's house, and I think we went to the corner store to get some chips and stuff. And you guys were like, "Oh, let's watch a movie," and I was just like, "All right." But then at the time, I didn't really think too much about it until I started seeing it. But man, dude, I couldn't even like it, only because you guys were there. But I couldn't even really watch it. But I mean, seeing it, it kind of made me think so many things because at first, when I was growing up watching the movie, I just thought about it in the way that it was just a witch. But now, kind of like reading more about it and kind of now that I'm older, being able to analyze it better, I kind of possibly think another thing, or because I've heard other theories and stuff like that. So pretty much, the movie was about like I think it takes place in October of like 1994, and it has like the three people and that three people, and I believe it's Heather, Mike, and Josh. And I think they're like in Maryland, and then they're trying to figure out about that Blair Witch thing. And I think they go to, yeah, like I said, the Black Forest, Black Hills Forest, I think. Um, and I think they start asking, if I recall, I think they start asking like the people around there if they know anything about that. But then I think they tell them that there was something going on about a like a serial killer. I believe it was like Rustin Parr or something like that. And that's pretty much what they got from it. And then they kind of just went on their own and went into the woods. I remember after that everything like kind of all went downhill because I remember that they lost their map. And yeah, the next thing, like I said, they just start being scared, like whether it be the tent shaking or when they wake up they see those strange sticks in certain forms or the rocks. Like I said, when growing up, I initially just thought like, man, it was a witch, like witch, like that's all it could have been, which maybe it was. But like I said, reading other things or hearing now kind of changed my mind. But yeah, point is that I think then the other guy Josh gets separated from them, I think, and then Heather and Mike end up go looking for him because well, after like pretty much being just like what stuck there, and they're like starving and like pretty much losing their mind, they start hearing his voice, like he's yelling. I think they like follow his like voice through a trail, and then they get there, and then I think they start going up and down like the apartment complex because they start hearing him. And then pretty much it turns out like where it cuts to like the last scene where I think Mike's just looking at the corner, and then the girl starts like she looks at him, but her camera falls, and it just kind of like end abruptly. I mean, it just kind of got me like it left me dumbfounded when I was younger, but now thinking about it, I either think like, yeah, it was probably either the witch that had taken, like, how can I say, I guess somehow taken over them, and then or like pretty much had, yeah, like had killed them and then had like control of them, because then she was either mimicking his voice to like lure them in, and then like when the other guy was there he got him, and then that's why he was just waiting there for the other girl, in which was she was attacked. But then another thing, I don't know if you know, they said that it could either be that the two guys set her up, and then it was like they pretty much killed her, and then the reason why that guy was like kind of staring at the wall was because of that serial killer guy that they talked about earlier. They said that he would have his victims like face the wall, so who knows if it was a type of like, I don't know, maybe like a tribute or something like that, like kind of to try to mimic the same thing. Well, what do you honestly think happened in the movie or like in the ending?
So going back to the serial killer, I didn't know that that was actually a serial killer. I mean, from what I remember, there was a witch. But as far as like the serial killer, that's what he would do. He would put his victims staring at the wall, and with that being said, the witch was replicating what he did, so she wouldn't, be the suspect. Or what do you think that that was all about? Because there you spoke about there being a serial killer and obviously a witch. And with that being said, why do you think that that happened? Or like I said, do you think that the witch was trying to, get the attention off of her? Or do you think it was actually the serial killer that was making it seem like he was the witch?
That's the thing, though. Like, I still can't really say what it was because there's just so many things that happen in the movie that point like otherwise. That it could be the witch or it could be a person doing it. Cause just you never know. Cause it kind of just like watching the movie as a whole. It's like a psychological thing to think about. Cause then again, you never know the types of maneuvers or techniques people use. And then again, they were going already kind of insane because they were starving, they didn't have water and all that. So, and they were being scared each time. So think about like how depleted their sanity was. It gets to the point where I'm pretty sure you're just so out of it that you just start losing it. So who knows if they lost it? Because like I said, it could be either things either they had planned it already, or while they were there they lost it, and then that's why they did what they did with her. Or like I said, just hearing, because then you remember you do hear like little kids crying in the forest when they're there. So it's like, how would the guys mimic that unless they have like a speaker or something, But it's like, yeah, there's just certain things that you notice, well, that point to like it being a witch, or other things pointing at being a person. But as far as the serial killer, like I said, I think it was like, I don't think it was at the moment that he was there. I think it was just like back then when they talked about it. Like they said, I think he killed like seven, or I don't know how many people, and they were like children or something. But that's what it would do. But I believe people said that like it could be, like I said, that those two guys were copying what he was doing, or that it was also, I believe they even said that it could probably be like that guy's spirit, doing that, or like whatever that thing was. Because they also said a witch, but they also said it could be that well, the murders, it could have been like his entity and all that stuff. But from my responses and everything, or just from you watching it or hearing from what I said, what do you think it was?
I mean, I'm not 100% sure what it could have been. Like I said, it could have been the witch, it could have been the serial killer. Um, but what's interesting to me is that, so with the children that were murdered, it was 100% the serial killer that murdered them? Or do you know that for sure that the serial killer did murder the children? And also, do you think that the children, when they were shaking the tent or when you would hear their voices, do you think that the children were actually warning the people that were there? Or do you think that the children were there to actually haunt them because, of all the pain and suffering that they endured while they were being murdered by the serial killer? What do you think that was all about?
So, I think, like I said, I'm not really particularly sure if they say, like, if they have proof or not, but I'm pretty sure, like, in the when they're asking the people, they do say something of that of that nature, that he did commit that. But then, I can't really say if it's the children warning them or not, because it could be that the witch, or now that I think about it, who knows if that person was influenced, or was, quote unquote, also being possessed or taken over by the witch. That's why he did that. Because I think it even said, or they in the movie it said that he would turn them around because he couldn't bear to see them, like when he would do what he would do. So I don't know if, like I said, if it really was, if he was just how he was, or he was under the influence too of that, whatever that witch was. So as far as like how you said about the kids crying, and or like shaking their stuff, and if you think that's like a warning, I don't know, I'm not really too sure. Because like I said, just the sole factor of how things can pretty much create themselves to be, or like to our eye, I guess. For all you know, like it could be a person or an animal, but it's a shapeshifter, etc., etc. Um, as far as that too, there. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there was like four different endings in total. They just ended up picking that one because, and then again, I thought about it, and yeah, it kind of made the more sense, and it just went well with the movie. So I think the other one was where they didn't show it at all, but I believe it was where they find the guy and he was completely like crucified in the woods, but they just didn't do that because that was just too graphic. The other ones they did show was like one where she walks down and she's staring straight at him, kind of like in an angry way, and then she falls. Same thing happens. The camera falls. I mean, and then the third one being where he's hung on the noose. That one was pretty crazy. I know that one. When I saw that one, I was like, man, if I would have saw that as a kid, I would have, crap my pants. And the fourth one was like where he was floating, and you would kind of see those crucifix type stick figure things floating with him too, and then it just shows the camera falling. But from hearing those endings, do you think that the one they have was the better ending because of that incorporation with the serial killer, or do you think they just picked it because the other ones were too like, I guess, either too graphic or cheesy or anything like that?
I mean, I would assume for its time it was already really scary. Like I said, it was a found footage type of movie, and none of us have ever seen anything like that. And so watching it, you're like, oh my god, this is actually happened. Like they found this tape in the middle of the woods, and this happened to these poor people. So it's like it had you on edge. It had you on the edge of your seat because it was something that we've never seen before. Um, so I would assume they try to do their best to just, like I said, keep you on the edge of your seat. And maybe those were a little too more graphic. Maybe it was a little too much, and maybe they thought that it was gonna be a little too much for release. Um, but I think I didn't know that the serial killer would actually do that. Put his victims, facing the wall because he couldn't bear what he was doing. And that's actually pretty strange because serial killer, you would assume that he wouldn't care about his victims or what his victims thought, even if they would plead for their life. So that's a little different. That's something different that I haven't heard. Serial killer that makes his victims face the wall, and then he basically kills them. But going back to the beginning, you know when they get to the woods, and she sees that little stick, what is it called, like a cross. I don't know what it really was. It's like a little stick with rocks, and she moves it.
Like
Yeah,
kind of
like a
like a
hex.
hex. Yeah.
Yes. So with her finding the hex and her messing around with it, do you think that if she wouldn't have messed with the hex, none of this would have happened? Or do you think that because she actually moved the hex was the beginning of all this and why it happened?
Man, I don't even know because it's like it could go just to the sole factor of someone just being a realist and telling me you're gonna tell me a pair of sticks and rocks to mean something, Because there's some people that are just realists, and like if I tell them that, they're like they don't believe that. I mean, there's just certain individuals that have beliefs, or I guess just the way they see things, and they're just like, nah, I don't. To them, it's just like that's just a pile of rocks and sticks. But for some people that believe in like the supernatural or like more than meets the eye, then yeah, I would say it probably did because I would say you don't tamper with things that maybe she didn't like out of fear or whatever. But I would say don't tamper with those things, especially with like I said, growing up and hearing so many things throughout my life or my experiences. It's just I think it probably did have some type of thing to do with it, maybe, or maybe like I said, they were already she was already like taking control of them already, like wanted them because they were there where she was.
Yeah.
So, oh, and then as far as like the how you were asking about the guy, yeah, I think he would also carve certain symbols on the kids, but that he would turn them around not because he didn't like when they would stare at him. And that did say, I believe he claimed that he was under the influence of the witch, you know, and that I believe it was seven, but he had eight and he let one go because he said like that was it, like I was done when then. So who knows if that was, it makes you think like, was this person really taken over by the witch, or were they just like satisfied with their needs or like their psychological problem that they had, that they fed it or something. But another thing, oh, did you also know, dude, that they went to the extreme where they would even each day to make the movie seem even more real, they legit had them go to a certain place in the forest and stay, and they would leave. They left them just with walkies and with some. They give them rations of food, but each day they would never. They would have a GPS on them, so they would never know. They would randomly pop out on them and scare them, and then even then, each day that would change. They would make the rations less and less, and even to the point where I heard that after the movie when it released, um, they started handing out missing people person posters of them to make it seem like they were actually gone. And that I think that was pretty crazy. Like that's still really extreme for a movie, I guess. Because even then, I think they even had them hide for a little, which was like, damn. Um, with that being said, do you think that like they did have a safe word though. I think it was taco, but at least they did have a safe word. But with that being said, did you think like that was over the top and with all the situation, and if they gave you the opportunity to be in a movie like that, would you do that?
I mean, most definitely. I don't, you know, to make an extreme movie, you have to go to the extreme, you know? So starving the cast members and scaring them randomly, it'll be more of a feel, more of a realistic feel, because obviously they're not just following a script, but them themselves don't know what's happening, surprises and all that. So I would say that it lined up really perfectly with the movie. Just like I said, it was like the first of its kind. Found footage type of movie. So it did give everybody like nightmares. People were scared. Like I watched it. When I first watched it, I was terrified. Yes, I watched the second part, but I wasn't really into it. I felt like they strayed away from the main focus. But yeah, no, definitely it was really scary. Um, and I do know that it was the girl and the two guys. What was the name of the guy that went missing first? Was it Josh, or who was the one that first went missing?
Yeah, it was Josh. It was Josh, the one that went missing first. And and what it kind of shows in the movie is that either, like I said, he was pretty much lured by the witch, and then while he no, I think he went. I don't know. Yeah, if he was lured or he tried to go find, like, I guess, on his own, and then like how I said, it mimicked his voice, and that's how it, like, attracted them. But yeah, that was the guy's name.
So because Josh went missing first, and so it could have been that it was just him, or it could have been that he was under the influence of the witch, correct? Just like the serial killer, like it could have been the serial killer, or he could have been in a trance that the witch put him in, right? So it could have been them doing that, or it could have been the witch that actually made them do it, right?
Yeah, now that I think about it, now it could have been both, because it could have been the witch's doing, because the witch possessed technically that guy, and now that when he was gone, who knows now if he was terrorizing people just for the witch's purpose or his just own nature. So now it makes you think about that even more. Was it both of them? Was it one of them? Was it she having him do it? And was she like already, was she having him lure them and she was taking care of them, or like, like she would kill them, etc.? Or, man, no, that's crazy. I didn't even think about it that way. But yeah, and then yeah, even then, when, like I said, with the whole different type of sticks and stones that were found there, I just thought, even then, if it just being a movie, just watching it, like I said, I just reliving it. As a kid, I was so terrified of it that I never wanted to watch it alone again. Even now, as an adult, I kind of think about it. And I'm like, damn, I'm pretty sure if I would have showed this to like someone like around that age, they would have been like, what the heck. But with that being said, I mean, as far as like witches, like what is your like intake on them?
So I just thought about something else right now while you were talking about Josh and the serial killer. Did you ever think about like Josh could have been the serial killer and he just lured his friends over there? Like he could have been the original serial killer that killed all those children, and then he's not like, well, I'm just gonna take my friends and kill them one by one. And as far as like witches go, Like, I know they're really scary, and I know that that was a perfect movie. Like, I do believe that there are witches. Like, I do believe that there are hexes, and I do believe that witches do hex people. Like, with all that being said, that was a good movie, and I feel that even now, if people were to watch it, like, they would be really scared. You know. But yeah, no, like I said, I never thought about it that way. Like, what if he was the serial killer and he just lured his friends? Do you think that could have been a possibility?
No, because remember, like it happened back in the day, and then that's when they came. So it's like I think it was before their time. So that's why I don't think that what they're trying to say is that the reason if the reason they would say if it was them was because they went crazy and they were tired of her. Well, they pretty much lost it, and that's why and they were pretty much tired of her keep like at it with the witch because she was the one that technically made like had them go. She like kind of influenced them and they went with her. But who knows if because someone said like, oh, it's because he was her ex boyfriend and the ex boyfriend brought a friend that she never ever met. So it's like, oh, but they never kind of made it seem like that in the story. Like they made it seem like they were cool, like they had a good relationship. But they never like once showed like, oh, he had like vendetta or vengeance. Because then I thought
Yeah.
about it, like, what if he brings someone that you like I don't know, like obviously people can talk to their exes, right? But it's like, uh, they made it seem like yeah, it's like he brought a guy she doesn't know, who knows if they had issues, and then they just used that to like as an excuse to have her secluded and do the things that they did. But I don't know. I think if it was to do with like them doing it, I'd say it was more so because they went crazy or like they went insane because of like all their sanity was gone. I mean, they were being literally haunted. They were starving. They were like they couldn't do anything. So I would say like if it was the theory of the people doing it, it was that way because they just went insane and they did what they did, and then yeah.
Yeah, going back to that whole thing, like, I'm not trying to bash on Josh, but it could have been a possibility that he was also trying to mimic the serial killer, nah? Like, he could have been doing that to his friends and, trying to scare them. And then in the end, how he found his other friend, or how the girl found his other friend, turned around facing the wall. Like, in reality, that could have been a possibility as well, but I'm not 100% sure. And then going back to, I think, towards the middle, where she actually finds that little, I think they find like a little like rag, and they open it and it has like a tongue and teeth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that part. Yeah.
I'm wondering if that actually belonged to Josh, or it belonged, I mean, not that if it but yeah, it belonged to Josh, or it was like an animal, or it belonged to a different type of animal, or it was actually his. Like, I'm not 100% sure, because also, like, we were talking about the tent. So it could have been the children, or it could have been Josh himself. We're not 100% sure. Um, like I said, it just, since it's so strange. Like I said, I'm not trying to bash Josh, but I think he did play a major role, and that's good because the whole psychological horror thing makes you think. It could have been the witch. It could have been the serial killer. Like, for all you know, it could have been the serial killer's spirit. Whether he might have been possessed or acting out in his own right now, at the moment when everything was happening. Um, and then going back towards the ending, do you think that the female, do you think that she actually passed away, or maybe she was kidnapped by the witch, and possibly she was in a trance, and then maybe she would continue what the witch was doing?
Oh, I get what you mean. Uh, just the way it kind of makes it seem, like I think the witch does what she has to do and then takes them. Like I don't think she keeps them there. Like I think yeah, what she does, what she lures them and does what she does, and then just takes they're gone. I don't think that she keep. I don't think she keeps them because just the sole factor that I feel like she would have kept the other guy, and she probably keeps their spirit or like their soul or something, and then she has them do their deeds. Just think about it. If that's what the guy was doing for the witch, and then afterwards, who knows if uh because of whatever, like she already had like possession of them. So yeah, I honestly think, like I said, that movie was really, really good and scary for its time. Like I think it was like more than above average, as far as like how we were talking about witches. Um, in Mexico, I do remember too. Even once, just kind of like them saying how they would sometimes see them. Even once on a YouTube video, I think once they showed where apparently it was weird a Rio where like there was like a witch floating and stuff like that. But in regards of that, with there being a really bad witches and stuff, I'm sure you heard of them be of good witches. Um, with that being said, do you think like they exist, and if so, like would you be like something? Would that be something that you would be interested in, like kind of exploring, or like if you got to meet one, would you be down for that?
I mean, I do know that there's, I guess good witches and bad witches, like people that practice white magic, black magic. But to be honest, I wouldn't want to mess with that, just because, like I said, you could open a portal to something else, and I wouldn't want something like that being attached to me, because even with the good witches and white magic, I don't know, like obviously it is good, you're not harming anybody, but I'd rather kind of just stay away from that. And also, like, I was thinking about the children, because the children's spirits are the ones that were around, right? Like it was just children, it wasn't any like adult spirits, right? From what I can remember.
No, yeah, it was just strictly seven children. Yeah, yeah, just the seven.
Children. So for the fact of it just being children, do you think originally it was children, or do you think that once they kill an adult, they take the spirit, but they show up as a child? Like that could have been a possibility too, nah? Like not just, I mean, unless he did just kill the children and then their spirits were just children, or do you think that it could have been a possibility that since they kill you as an adult, they have your spirit as a child?
Um, no, honestly, I think I don't know. Usually, that's a kind of hard question. That's something I can't really, I guess, explain because I'm still here. But um, usually how they personify it in movies or in any type of like literature stuff like that. Well, stuff that I've seen and read. Maybe there's other ones that I haven't explored yet. But usually, from my understanding, even in cartoons, like when you see them pass away or something, they it shows them the same. Like, so for example, if I was right now as old as I am, if I was 10 years old, I would be this. When I pass away, my soul would be as 10. I would stay as that. Or like if I was 50 at the time, if my soul, my I guess it would be. That's what I've seen. I guess
Yeah.
from movies or shows or anything. But I guess I don't know. For my just it's just my opinion, but I would I would assume then maybe you stay like that because that's where you stopped or you stop. Because
Yeah.
technically, how would you be able to grow more if you didn't get there? You get what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. I was just thinking about like maybe, he robbed them of their innocence so they turn back into children. But then going back to him just murdering children, I guess you could say that maybe he murdered them because they wouldn't fight back, or maybe he took away their innocence and that's the way he saw it, because I technically he didn't murder any, adults. So I would say that, he would rob them of their innocence, and that might, have made him feel better as a person or as a serial killer or whatever he was, like robbing them of their innocence.
I mean, so what it's trying to say apparently, or what the movie's trying to state is that like it was the witch that with the it was the witch's doing over that person. But like I said, you never know. Like we never really know because, like I said, just being the sole fact of that. I mean, it's like they're just think about it. One day, if you were a cop or whatever it may be, a police officer, and you come in a house and you see a house full of just a bunch of people that are no long, just deceased, and the guy says like, "Oh, I was possessed during that." Like, are you gonna be like, "Oh, okay," or are you gonna say, "Come here"? Like it
Yeah.
makes you. It just makes your mind ponder in so many ways because that stuff does exist, which is scary, dude. Because that's a terrifying thing to happen. Like I would never wish that upon anyone, or imagine like that was to happen to you, and then that thing does what it does, and it like, to mess with you. That's what it does, and then it ruins your whole life. Like that's how crazy certain things are. Like the supernatural, dude. Like I said, it's more than meets the eye.
Yeah. And then going back to the children, because you said that, it could have been a possibility that Josh, or not Josh, but the serial killer was under a trance from the witch. But it's kind of a little different because she if he would have been under the trance of the witch, like I kind of wonder, or makes me wonder, like why would she go from killing children to killing adults? You get me? Because like you said, it was 7 children, and then she possibly could have, you know, um, possess Josh and kill his friends, So it kind of like makes you question like why go from children to adults, Like I said, I'm not asking you like why do you think, but that's just like a possibility, or like kind of like a little strange that she would go from children to adults.
So these are two things I think. One of my thing is that she just uses people to get whatever type of, I guess you would say, prey that she wants. And two would be like, yeah, that I I guess since they came and they were so interested in kind of like, messing with stuff, because you know how like the old saying is don't mess with things of that nature. And I guess, like you said, for all you know, since they kept being so persistent and persistent, the witch noticed, I guess, or realized their energy or their intention. So it's like, oh man, these people want to, they want to mess
They
around, or they,
wanted, yeah,
yeah. So I'm gonna let them have it too.
find out,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I mean, you could kind of see in the movie how hungry they are, and you know how they say the more energy you give to something, the stronger it gets. So I would think that it could be either or, that it was, just it picking whatever it could find. And lu- lu- even then, unluckily, since they came and they were looking for that, they were a victim too. Or just because they came and she obviously would detected them or found out, all these people want to find out if I'm real or not, okay, I could show them what's up. And then it did what it did.
Yeah, so like in the beginning, I know that they were interviewing a few people, asking them questions about what had happened, about the witch. Um, so were those people actually warning them not to do it, or did they just talk about like the experiences or what they heard that was going around?
Man, dude, it's been a while since I seen it. I should have literally seen it. But from my recollection, I believe they were just giving them like the insight of like
Like their
what happened in the
perspective?
past. What happened? Yeah, because I believe they said that those murders happened in 1940 and 1941. So they were kind of giving them like the backstory behind it, I guess. And yeah, because even the house that they went in the ending, that was the serial killer, where that's where the serial killer would kill them, in that same spot. So it kind of made you wonder, no? Like that's what I'm saying. Like, what if she already had him? Like that was her victim. Like that was the one she claimed, and then since that was his house and everything, she would just use that location and him to, to just do her biddings. He's like, I got you now. So now that I have an actual person, like a human, to do this, that's how she would, proceed with her like, deeds.
Yeah, no. And then I actually remember the little hexes. I wonder if the little hexes represented people, because it was kind of like in the shape of a cross. But if you kind of like, unless I'm remembering wrong, but if you kind of like remember how the hex looked, it kind of looked like a person, not like a stick person. And I wonder if that actually represented like for every stick person. I wonder if that represented like, I mean, for every stick, well, yeah, stick person or hex. I wonder if that represented too, like the 7 children or the people that she had killed. You get me? Like kind of like a crucifixion like type of thing. Like, okay, I killed this person, so I'm gonna place this hex here that represents that person.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good theory, dude. I would say possibly, but it kind of gets me thinking of just like how the hexes are. Like maybe with them being placed, she was, putting cursing them, or doing like while she was creating the hexes, she was cursing them with things. Like I said, it just gets me thinking because just like when we would play Dead by Daylight,
I was
to
about to say
shout out
that,
to
yeah.
everyone who plays Dead by Daylight. Um, yeah, and obviously when it's pretty much like a video game where there's 4 players and they have to run from a killer, do generators, etc., etc. Point is, they have abilities to have hexes, and each hexes have ability, give them certain abilities to do things, whatever. But you have to break them or cleanse them, and it goes away. So maybe they were placed. It could be, like I said, either or. If it was the witch, it was her doing, like, her cursing them, doing certain things, so they could, I guess, see things or hear things. Maybe that's why they were seeing all the things, because maybe she was putting all those hexes. Or like I said, it was either just them, they did so from hearing all those things, like from the two guys going and hearing all those details from the town people. Maybe they used that to their knowledge, and they were like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do that and make it look more real." But I don't know. It could be either or, to be honest.
Yeah, and I just thought about it, like when you brought up Dead by Daylight, the character is a witch and she does put hexes. And if you step on the hex, she appears. So that could have been a possibility, she made the hex, they messed with it, she broke it, and she had to appear. But with that being said, I don't want to, stray away from the movie itself, just touching a little bit of the subject of the game itself. But I do recall, if I'm not wrong, that the witch puts her own hexes, and then you as a player, well, obviously you're the good guy in the video game, you could put good hexes. So I wonder if in reality there are bad hexes and good hexes, or they're just bad hexes in general. Kind of makes you wonder.
I guess it really is how we personify or see it, because in reality, it can look good for someone and look bad for the other. I guess, because depending on what the situation is, I mean, I guess there really shouldn't be one where people putting hexes on others, but I honestly think that, like you said, with the with the witch in the game putting the hexes and it appearing, who knows? Yeah, that if with with that being said, who knows if, since they were like messing with them, like how you said, that's why it would trigger certain things, like, oh, you moved it or you broke it, that's why it would activate that or this and that, or maybe that's why they would feel.
Mhm.
Um, another thing that I wanted to say was that how you said, what did you say? I believe. Uh,
With the good hexes and the bad
oh yeah,
hexes.
yeah, the good and the bad, yeah, 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 yeah. Honestly, like I said, it's I don't know. I I guess if there's like hexes for protection, I guess maybe then I see no harm in that. But I don't know. I still think, like you said, we people shouldn't really, I guess, mess with those things in a sense. Like, kind of just let it be, because you don't know what exactly you're gonna open or, possibly mess with or whatever. Because like I said, you never know what paranormal things are out there. Each and every day. I feel like, for all you know, someone could be experiencing something right now and recording it, or even then, like, try to document it, and we don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like I said, this found footage movie did really change everything. It changed the horror genre forever. Not just that, I do know that there was really a small budget for this movie, if I'm not mistaken, and then it became, a huge box hit. Um, do you think if somebody was to make a movie right now similar, do you think it will live up to the hype or not because of its time and how everything was, done back in the day? Do you think that, like I said, it would be the same or not because it's already been, said and done?
Man, just like I said, this is just my opinion. People can think otherwise or whatnot, but I honestly feel like nowadays movies aren't the same as they used to be anymore. I feel like, or who knows, maybe it's just because I was younger and growing up, or I don't know. I feel like back in the day, those movies were scary. Nowadays, they're more mediocre, and I'm just like laugh. But I mean, I was scared of like Freddy Krueger,
Chucky,
Chucky,
yeah.
Michael Myers, like all those, like those
Freddy
were terrifying.
Krueger.
It's like those things terrified me. But now it's like, okay, yeah, if I do see like maybe like all those other ones, like, what was it, like from Insidious or those ones, like, yeah, those demon things, yeah, no, like that, I don't mess with those things. But I guess, like, from going from like movies though, I guess they do have the potential, because you do know they are gonna make another one, right? It's coming out September of next year.
So it's actually like a Blair Witch movie.
Yeah, I believe I don't know if it's like a new chapter or something. I think it's a new chapter. So that's another thing too, that we're going to see how they either improve on it or how they can possibly, make it worse. But I guess we'll see. Like, now, I mean, think about it. It's 2026 now. That movie was what,
1999.
1999. So think about it. We're way ahead of now. AI is a thing. So many things. But then sometimes when they do too much, it just messes the whole thing up. So I really hope it lives up to the hype, because I'm excited. I kind of want to see it. I mean, I do want to see it.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely watch it and then touch back on this, just to see how it changed and how it like went back to like our memories. Like we could compare and contrast, how it's different, how it's the same. And then going back to it, you think it was scarier because you couldn't see the witch? Because I mean, I know that scary movies you could see the killer or the spirit or whatever it is that comes out. But I do know that in the movie, I mean, from what I remember, you don't see the witch, at all. So it plays more into like psychological horror. I think it was scarier like that, to be honest. I don't know what your perspective would be. Do you think that that was even better that they just didn't show the witch at all?
Yeah, honestly, that's where they got us. That's where they got the people because that then leaves you in that mindset where you never know what happened. Because if we would have seen the witch, then that would have eliminated every other theory. Like they would have been straight up. There's the witch, and that's it.
Yeah.
But with us never seeing it, it is true. All you just hear him say is like, "Oh, what the heck is that over there?" I remember there's a scene where they're supposedly panning, but there's nothing there. And I honestly thought I felt like they did. And now that you said that, no, they never saw anything. I
Yeah.
thought for some reason I thought in a split second in a scene they like when they were running or turning they saw something, but no, they never did. So that's another thing that gets you wondering that like why yeah well you could hear it and all, but yeah, even then if you really think about it, like if someone really wanted to do something like that, you could like you just get a tape recorder, record kids doing whatever, you play that and play that louder, have someone else be out moving sticks and stuff. Like it's just so simple. Like it's not difficult. But then again, it's like who would really go out of their way to do that, you know? But I mean, like I said, I really hope the new one is like I said is lives up to the hype. I hope it's as good as the old one was, or even better. I mean, I don't have too much high hopes, not because like I said, I don't feel like the movies are good nowadays, but I just feel like with how times were back in the day and how they were like kind of portrayed, and even with the graphics, I mean the quality not being as great, like the storyline or just like like the scenes and everything were just made up for it. Like you didn't even need that 4K thing. You were just like you would even Chucky, you would just see a random dog, and then you would be scared.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then we go back to the same thing. Do you think that it was actually the Blair Witch that was doing that, or do you think it could have possibly been something else that was doing it, or is just her work?
I don't know. I can't. I would say that it was her because that's what the whole kind of plot was about. I was to say because they never really did introduce anything else or like another type of entity or spirit or anything else on that, So I believe yeah, it was her because then I kind of feel like it wouldn't really make sense. They would just kind of yeah. So I would believe that it was if it was the witches doing or if that's what it was going on, then yeah. Then that's what. Yeah.
So, what was your favorite part of the movie? And with you knowing that all this happened, would you go into the woods? Like, obviously, daytime, nighttime, but would you go into the woods at all? Like somewhere that you haven't explored, or would you stay out of there?
Nah, dude. I've growing up like I have done that before. Not at night, but in that particular woods, if I had like if they told me go explore there, hell no, I'm not doing that. Like there's no way I'm going there. Like even then, I would have to take a whole crowd of people. Like I'm taking 20 people max at least. But nah, I wouldn't do that. Like I said, it's just better to be safe than sorry. Especially like I said, learning my lesson for certain things or just watching people over my time that mess with things or play with things or curiosity like I said, and it was never worth it, like literally. So me, I wouldn't do it. As far as you told me my favorite scene, I think my my favorite scene was when well pretty much I think the ending like because it just got me thinking when like well, what is the guy doing, like what's happened, like when the guy was just turned around and she was screaming, where you would hear the screaming and then she just felt like, and that because it got me thinking like did the guy get her? Did the witch get her? Like, did she run away? Like, well, what happened? Like, it always just got me thinking, even until as an adult. Like I said, when I watched it like a while back again, I just kind of like, even then I was still like, man, I had to look it up to see theories of people what they thought, and then yeah, I put two and two together, and it does make sense. Um, but for you, what was what was the scariest scene for you, and how you asked me about going in in that situation, those woods. Would you do it yourself or no?
I think for me, the scariest scene was when they were in the tent, and then I don't know if it was the children or who it was. Like I said, it could have been Josh as well. And they were like moving the tent, like, pretty crazy. And that was pretty intense because you don't know what's out there, you know? Like, even if I was in the woods and somebody started doing that to me, like, I would lose it, like, because you don't know what's out there, you know? And it's like when you're in your room and you hear something scary and you cover yourself under your sheets, like, the sheets aren't going to protect you, but still, you don't want to go out there to find out what it is, you know? So I would say that's my favorite scene of the movie itself because you don't know what's out there, you don't know what it could be, and you don't know what could happen to you, you know. And as far as going to the woods, I don't think so, because I don't want to. Like, maybe if I went with people and maybe if it was like a part of the woods that wasn't so deep in, or a part that I hadn't explored, because like I said, I don't want to get lost and then something happen. Even if there isn't a witch or not, like I don't want something to happen to me, or I get lost, or something happens to my friends, things like that. But definitely my favorite scene was that, like I said, with the whole tent, because you don't know what's out there, so it leaves it out to like imagination. So I feel like that was perfect for the movie. Like I said, going back to the found footage type, like I said, it changes it for every type of horror movie. um would you recommend this movie to anybody right now?
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen this movie, go check it out. It's definitely worth the time. Um, Definitely watch it in a dark setting. Makes it way more, the ambiance way more better. But yeah, I definitely recommend, especially like if you're a horror enthusiast or you just like watching scary things. Give it a shot, and let me know what you think. If you think what theory is real, what if it's not real. But yeah, I definitely recommend it to someone who likes that type of genre, or someone that just likes movies in general. It definitely expands your collection and you could add it there. um with us having a topic of witches, it's kind of like how we talk about good and bad. Kind of brings me to when I was in high school, and I knew this girl that was a cheerleader, and her I remember like she would always have certain types of like bracelets or necklaces, and I always saw them like, I
Like
don't know,
amulets?
yeah, in a sense they kind of look like, they were always like fascinating to me. I don't know, for some reason, me growing up, I kind of, when I would see shiny things or colorful things, or I don't know, certain, I don't know, different things, I would be so intrigued by them. And one day I just decided to ask her, like, hey, like I would compliment her like on her bracelets and necklace, and she's like, oh, do you want one? And she's like, I can get you one. And I was like, oh, sure, because I know I love wearing bracelets. Um, and then yeah, she's like, oh yeah, I just gotta tell my mom, but I didn't think too much about it. And yeah, one day when I remember we were playing soccer, and she had told us like if we wanted to go over, and then that time I met her mom, and she's like, yeah, it's because my mom's in like her room, like she told me like she's just doing some cleansing. And I was like, some cleansing? Yeah. And she told me like, yeah, because she like practices, like, like she pretty much told me like, oh, it's like buena bruja, which means like, oh, good witch. And then when she told me about all her bracelets and everything, she told me that it's because she, like, kind of like makes them pure, or like perform certain, like, not rituals, but certain little spells or things on them for protection. And I noticed that there would be certain colors of threads or certain shapes on the thing. And she told me like, oh, here, and after she came out, the lady gave it to me, and then I was kind of intrigued, and I did ask her, like, I, I was like, what's that all about? And yeah, she told me how she would, practice magic, and I would assume it was white magic, how you brought up that point, because I didn't really know I didn't know like all that existed. And so, further investment in how you informed me about it. But I mean, at that point, at first, I thought, man, like, this person is full of it, like. But like I said, it seen a lot of things too, or experiencing, definitely, I believed it. And hey, like I said, if you're not harming nobody, or I guess if you're just doing it to like protect or whatnot, I mean, so be it. As long as I guess you're not hurting anybody else. But yeah, I mean, the mom seemed like always really kind and nice. And yeah, I noticed that too, that she was very like her belief on medicine and stuff like that was way different. Like she was kind of more focusing on like remedies and certain things. So I noticed too when certain ways how my friend would tell me that she would get better. I kind of would be like, well, like certain like they wouldn't kind of focus on actual medicinal things. They would just do um I guess,
Like rituals.
yeah, some things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Anyone could probably say that it is what it is. But yeah, that is kind of like of a experience or story that I had where some type of encounter with one. I'm not sure if you ever had one, or if you know of anything of like that.
Not particular for me that I had an encounter with the witch or anything like that, or but I do know, like I said, there is a lot of videos out there where they have witches flying, and I know that in Mexico they do talk about witches. I think they call them lechuzas. Some I'm not sure 100% if that's what they call them, lechuza. Um, but I think they describe them as being like owls, or I don't know if they transform into owls because I think that's what they say. No, I'm not 100% sure. But that topic is big in Mexico. And I do know 100% that white magic and black magic exist. And like how we were talking about the egg cleansing thing, so I could just wonder if maybe that's like a white magic type of ritual because it cleanses you. So I wonder if that's like where they get it from, because obviously rituals or recipes are passed down. So I wonder if the egg cleansing could have originated from a witch, from a white witch, practicing white magic to cleanse you.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been possible that that's what it is. I mean, because like I said, things are always passed down or learned by other people. But now that I'm thinking about how we were kind of going on, well, how we kind of went off by the game of Dead by Daylight and that, um, technically, I think they in the Blair Witch they were saying how they got the idea or like something of the thing of the witch kind of being the hag. So that's the same thing as the hag from
Mm,
Dead by Daylight. So maybe that's where they got the idea from.
yeah.
But it kind of makes you wonder that maybe that's why they wouldn't see her, because she would either teleport or you know how sometimes in the game she would camouflage or blend with the background because of her color. Like every time if you paid attention to the skin she got, it was always a type of camouflage color. So who knows if that's why the witch and the Blair Witch Project had that ability, and it would just every time they were in the woods, it would kind of like with the darkness and whatever item it had there, or it would like they would come out and boom teleport to another hex, or maybe that's why it would put hexes to use form of teleportation. So, it opens up like a whole new mindset.
Yeah, no, definitely. I didn't know that, that character was inspired by the Blair Witch itself, but it is a good concept, and it does make you like it helps you get a better understanding of the powers and everything that's involved within the witch. Like I said, I haven't really had experiences. I've just heard, and I'll try to do a little bit more research. But if I'm not mistaken, like I said, in Mexico they call them lechuzas, and they appear in form of owls. So that's why every time they say that you see an owl, you gotta pray or get away from it because they say that they take the shape of the owl. Um, but with all that being said, is there anything else that you would like to share with within the topic, or anything else that you would talk about?
Not really. I feel like we kind of covered everything at the moment. Mainly, just like I said, definitely go check out the movie if you have any free time. Like I said, even then, it's fits for like people that are just movie enthusiasts or horror enthusiasts. Another thing too, like definitely check out the movie in the future. We're not sponsored or anything like that. We're just like those types of movies and want to see if it does meet our expectations. With it being the time that we are in now, and modern technology, you can make something look so cool, but then by doing it so cool, it kind of looks fake. So I mean, it's really no. The last thing is just uh, no. I guess we could not really just with it being the fascination of the strength and magical beings of witches and everything. Because there's so much other magical beings that are kind of in the same category but just are different in a sense.
All right, guys. Well, this concludes our episode today. Like I said, we touched on the Blair Witch Project. Again, this movie was released January 25, 1999. The first of its kind. Honestly, like it changed the way that I viewed it. When I saw it, I thought it was real. I thought it was real. I didn't want to go into the woods. I didn't want to mess with anything that had to be like witch related. Um, yeah, and pretty much, comment, subscribe, let us know your opinions. If you have any comments, any questions, any concerns, just let us know. Um, and yeah, I'll just pass it off to you if you have anything else to say.
Not just closing it out. Just be sure, like I said, to make sure to follow and subscribe. All our socials are there, listed on our YouTube. And as my brother said, always feel free to comment anything in the like comment a story of you or any experiences that you have, or if you feel more comfortable it being in the messages, do that as well. Also, comment if you have seen this movie, or comment if you do want to see it, or even if if you have any other theories, or if you think our theories are off or wrong. We're up for always, like, debate, whether because we always like to hear what everyone else has to hear. But other than that, we really appreciate you guys taking time out of there to listen to our podcast, and we hope you have a great night.
A red glow crawls